And then it stopped. All right. So we should be on. Hold on. We should be on now. It's all right. We're on. Praise the Lord. All right. So let's
Okay.
all right. So good evening, everybody. I am so sorry for the technical difficulties. We kind of got behind, but we're on now. We're live now, and we are having the conversation tonight. Thank you so very much for being patient with us through this hard time that we tried to get this thing together for you to really talk about financial management throughout COVID-19. I'm praying that you're well. I have a great guest that's with me on tonight. He is a mentor of mine, someone that he has seen me mature. I have been blessed to be a part of his life and as far as my life as well. He is no stranger to some of you that are watching right now on Facebook and on YouTube. He has experience, and I'll let him get an opportunity to really introduce himself. But thank you so much for allowing, for your time, even with all the technical difficulties, to really give this presentation of financial tips to help us while we're in a crisis as COVID-19 is rearing its ugly head. So I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself. This is, I call him Deacon Craig, based upon our affiliation, but he is Norman Craig. He is a former financial analyst at WNS Life. So I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself. Tell the audience about what you do and more or less of what we'll be talking about today.
Okay, certainly. Thank you, Pastor Strong. Yes, what I will be discussing in a bit of detail here is, of course, finances. How to manage your finances through this crisis so you can come out on the other end much better in your situation, stronger with a sound financial picture, and how to accomplish the goals you've set for you and your family. I've been in the industry now for 35 years. Registered principal, securities licensed, and I do a lot of financial preparation for individuals, families, small business owners, and so forth. So I do have a great amount of education with respect to some of the questions you may want to ask. So today I'm just going to share with you a brief, PowerPoint presentation. And I want you to, as we traverse through that, if you'll jot down any questions that you have and send them to Pastor Strong, he'll be able to then relay those to me and I'll answer them if they have not been answered during the PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to do that. I will, of course, as I mentioned, end up with a Q&A, so I'll address those questions at that point. I'll even leave you with my contact information if there's something a little too personal that you may not want to share on the session here, and then we'll address that and I can help you with that at a later date. So again, kudos to Pastor Strong. He is certainly to be commended for putting this together and giving you an opportunity to enhance your scenario and, as I said, accomplish the financial goals you've set for yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. And I, like I said, I'll turn the floor over to you. I kind of got some questions of myself, to really delve into. And with everything that's going on, with COVID-19, with people that are now unemployed, and some people may not be able to, get a check to really support themselves or their families. What would you say, per se, from your financial backing? Is it smart? When you talk about savings account, what is the best way to really really save, or how important is to invest, knowing that resources may be limited due to everything that's happening the way it's happening? What is the best, either a savings account or 401k, or how would that work for someone that may be in that situation?
Right, and great question there, without a doubt. The best thing, and I know to some people it may seem difficult, but it is truly the easiest way to approach a scenario. You want to look at things from a priority standpoint. realizing that everything, every goal that you have needs to have something funding it. So you need to have an emergency fund. You need to have an investment account. You need to have funds set aside for every goal that you've set for yourself. And you can do that simultaneously. You don't have to just focus on one specific thing and then try to accomplish that and then try to focus on something else. The key to investing, the key to saving, the key to accomplishing your goals is to make sure that there are funds consistently going towards it. And it doesn't make a difference how much it necessarily, it's the fact that something is being set aside. So say, for instance, you had a person who was 25 years old and they were setting aside $100 a month. And they did that till they were 45 years old. Now that's 20 years, okay? So they put in about $24,000. By the time they reach age 65, they'd have well over $200,000. Now take the same person who waited, and they just waited 10 years, and they started at age 35, but they paid all the way to 65. So they've paid for 30 years. So they've paid into this, almost, twice the amount at about $80,000. They're only going to end up with about $149,000.
Wow.
Considerably less, and they've put in considerably more. But the difference is the compounding interest and the fact that the other individual started earlier. Even though they stopped, they had that money that was still there, constantly working for them, even though they weren't putting any funds in. So the key is, no matter what, it's to start now. There's investments that there's something that a person can set aside if they do one thing. What I'd like to share with your audience is to walk you through this PowerPoint, and I'll give you 12 specific tips that will share with them the absolute best way to accomplish their goals.
Yes, sir. Okay? The floor is yours.
Okay, let's do that then. All right. So first and foremost, as I said, I want to get into those 12 tips with you. And as we go through this, again, don't forget to send your questions in. Anything that is not addressed by the PowerPoint, we can address at the end. So with that, just keep in mind, and the one thing that's always driven me to get me to a comfortable retirement is to hear these words. And that came from Matthew 25:21. His Lord said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of the Lord." So that should be a driving force that continues to push you. Now, anyone that's listening to my voice, if you are working in any capacity or whatever, you're going to have a considerable amount of money go through your hands. Okay? And the question is not so much how much you made, but what do you have at the end of the day? That's the difference. Because you can take a 30-year-old person having a 100,000 household income, combined spouses, and at the end of that period of time, they would have earned $3.5 million. That's what would have gone through their hands. Now, what would they have in retirement to assist themselves in the future? So that's really the question. So it's all about choices, and everyone is going to make financial choices. Good, bad, or indifferent, we're going to be forced to make them. But to make them better is focusing on the fact that we have to consider certain questions to be answered in order to accomplish our goals. Where do you want to live? Do you want to own a home? Do you want to rent? What kind of home? What kind of lifestyle are you trying to have? Or would you like the vacation? All of these different things are going to be a part of how much money you have to set aside. So think of it more as a journey, things that you want to accomplish, and you want to start, those small, and those victories that you gain along the way will continue to give you the momentum you'll need to accomplish those larger goals down the road.
Yes.
So the choices, and we've all heard this old adage, people don't plan to fail, they simply fail to plan. And that is so true without a doubt. So what I want to share with you is how to truly take control of your financial picture.
Yes.
So the first thing, and this is to me the most important thing to accomplishing your goals, and that is to pay yourself first. Look at it as just as you would pay your rent or your mortgage or the utilities or whatever the case may be. That's the way it should be with you. It's a bill, and you're going to pay that bill. It's just as important, if not more so, than any of those other bills you have. That's the individual that's going to end up accomplishing their goals and having the funds necessary to do the things that they want to accomplish. Number two is develop and, of course, stick to a budget. And I know it's real easy to determine how much money is coming in. The question is how to track those funds going out.
Yes.
And you can use various different tools to do that. Online you have a great number of budget calculators and that type of thing. But it is a well worth exercise to sit down and do that. Find out how much is coming in and then what's going out, because far too many Americans today are actually spending more than they're bringing in, and that's what causes all these issues. And the next thing is, of course, as you're doing that, you have to take your time. The best thing to do is look at your bank account or the bills that you have to help calculate how much am I actually spending on a monthly basis. And then, of course, don't forget about those things that are, maybe like hobbies that you have, or, dining out and, things of that nature, because you want to break it down into two things. Number one is discretionary expenses. Those are the things you just don't have control over.
Yes.
Okay, you have to pay your rent. You have to pay your mortgage. You have to, pay utilities and for your car note if you have one, those type of things. And in that figure should also be that pay yourself first amount of money. That's non-discretionary. I am going to do this. I have no choice. But it's the discretionary expenses that you have a great deal of control over, and that's where we can really make some inroads to success. Those things such as clothing, entertainment, hobbies, all of that type of thing, various leisure activities you may want to take advantage of. You can limit those things. There's nothing wrong with going out to dinner. You just don't want to do it 5 nights a week.
No.
So there's ways you can control that. And a good adage that I try to share with my clients is, if you break it down, you want to look at 20% of the funds that you're bringing in should really be focused on what you're going to save or invest. 20% is those discretionary expenses. Okay, those are the things, just having fun, enjoying life, and so forth. And 60% is the non-discretionary expenses. That's the funds that are really going to make a future for you and determining what you really want to do. Thirdly, of course, is become financially literate. And I commend each and every one of you out there listening, because this is the first step to doing that. Try to get as much as you can to put yourself in a better situation. We've all heard knowledge is power, and that is so, so true without a doubt.
Yes.
So when you look at it that way, we have to break it down when we talk about investing for the future, because many people think that saving and investing are the same thing.
Wow.
Which couldn't be further from the truth, and they just don't understand it. Saving is something that's more short term, and you are going to, sadly but true, end up with a very low return, but you have a lot of liquidity with that, and you have some guarantees with that. Okay, when it comes to investing, that's for a longer term type of a scenario where you're going to have a lot more risk involved, but a much higher potential for return. And so therefore, depending on how long you're going to be investing is going to determine the type of investments you want to take advantage of and so forth. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So in becoming financially literate, we need to understand a couple of things. Number one is that power, magic of compounding interest that I mentioned to you. Okay. That was where I was sharing with you that person who started at the age 25, invested for 20 years to 45, put in that $24,000. At 65, they'd have $275,000. That's what they would have in their pool. Now, that same another individual starting 10 years later at 35, but they're going to invest all the way to 65. So that's 30 years instead of that 20 years. They've invested for 30 years. So they've put in $36,000 as opposed to $24,000. They only end up with $149,000. as compared to a person who put in far less, ending up with 275,000. That's a big, big difference. So we want to take advantage of that. And there is a risk reward that we need to be comfortable with and understanding. We need to understand what risk is really all about, because some people think, well, I can put it in my savings account at the bank and I have FDIC, so there's no risk there. Or I could put it under my mattress. This is the money I have, it's under my mattress. Well, you may not have a certain risk involved with that, like, the risk of losing your money from, if it's in the bank. You certainly still have that if the house burns down or the mattress, you would lose that. But the risk you would have, even in the bank, possibly, is what we call that risk of buying power. Keep in mind, there's a monster out there that erodes away at your ability to gain funds for the future, and that is inflation. And if you can't at least earn more than inflation, you're going backwards, because things are going to cost more down the road than they cost today. And if your buying power does not keep up with that, you're going to run into some jeopardy. Then the other thing is, of course, when it comes to investments. And there's various different types of investments, whether it's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, money market, all of these different types of things that you can take advantage of. So depending on your situation is going to determine what investments you take advantage of. I always advise that you utilize a tool that I call an asset allocation. Okay. What that does is, based on your comfort zone, your knowledge of the marketplace, it will design a portfolio for you and share with you how you should structure your investment portfolio. So it'll say you need to have this percentage here and that percentage there and so forth, depending on the type of risk you're comfortable in maintaining. So it's a lot to doing that and becoming financially literate, but it's so worthwhile, because that's when you can sleep at night and get the gains that you ultimately are trying to accomplish. Diversification is another good tool that simply is sharing with you not to put all your eggs in one basket, to kind of spread it around. So when various different things happen in the marketplace, you're still in a situation to where some things may not have went well while others went very well. So overall, your portfolio is still on the road to success. So that's a big plus. So if you understand the difference between savings and investing, you can accomplish your goal. Savings, very, very short term and liquid. Investments are for a longer period of time, but you have the potential for much better growth. And when you look at it, your savings are at the bottom of this pyramid here, things such as just liquid cash, bank accounts, certificates of deposits, money markets, and so forth. And then the risk starts to get higher as you go up. Government bonds, even though they're pretty secure, there's still risk involved. Stocks, of course, bonds and mutual funds can be even more risky, but again, higher potential for return. Collectibles, if people are into that, very, very risky, but if you do it properly, you can get decent returns there as well. Number 4, establish and monitor your financial goals. Here it just goes without saying that you want to break it down into what I call short-term goals, intermediate goals, and long-term goals. Mm-hmm. Those short-term goals are designed to, again, accomplish a goal for you over a short period of time. Maybe something you're going to set aside money to get furniture, or to go on a trip, or pay off your credit card, or something that you can do relatively in a year or two or so forth. That would be then, of course, putting it into a liquid fund, something like a savings account, money market, and so forth. Intermediate goals are something more maybe to 3 to 10 years out. Okay, even though you can't get really aggressive, you can put things into a little bit better scenario to give you a better return on your investment. And then long-term things such as, maybe depending on the age of your children, if you're going to assist them with college education or ultimately your retirement, these are things that you're not going to need for 10 plus years. You can afford to be a little bit more aggressive because you have time. If the market drops, you didn't need the money right then anyway. So you let those funds continue to accrue and grow for you. Believe it or not, even though as disastrous as it sounds and how the market has fallen to this point, you still need to understand if you have funds and you're not at retirement, but you have savings somewhere else, probably one of the best strategies you could do for yourself is invest into the market. Because ultimately the potential for it to come back is so high, and you would ride that wave and end up with a much larger nest egg, is the potential for doing it that way. So again, you want to monitor along the way, make the necessary changes, and go from there. Building an emergency fund. This is, just paramount. A lot of financial advisors will tell you you should have 6 months to a year of, expenses set aside. And that's a good figure. I try to focus people on at least 3 months to set aside. That's for those unexpected things that happen. We live life. So sometimes the fridge goes on the fritz, or, you're in a fender bender and now you've got to come up with the deductible, or you need, to do something, it's going to take money to do it. Well, that's what that emergency fund is for. And the best way to look at it is when you did that budget analysis and it says, okay, this is how much I'm spending each and every month. You multiply that by 3, and that's the amount of money at a minimum that you should always have in that savings account or money market account and so forth. That's the key to that. And then, of course, you do have to always distinguish between needs and wants. Okay, we need shelter, we need food, we need clothing, we know that. But as I mentioned earlier, we don't need to, watch, the movies every week, or we don't need to, go on these extravagant vacations if things are tight and so forth. So we need to be careful of those type of things. And we do need to focus on managing our debt. You had a great question earlier. And debt is really eroding away at our society. So many people are in jeopardy because of the credit card debt and things like that. We can show you strategic ways to minimize that and actually eradicate that debt. But more importantly, even though it's okay to maybe have a credit card, you shouldn't have 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, and so many people do. And you certainly should put together a strategy that would completely eliminate that credit card debt. The best way to use a credit card is like a charge card. And a charge card is like an American Express or Diners Club, that type of card where at the end of the month, you're paying it off. And that's the way it should be with your credit card. Because people think they're taking advantage of a sale. Oh, this suit is on sale, or that dress, or those shoes. And then you put it on your credit card. By the time you've paid for it, you've ended up paying 50% more than what it was on sale. So it really, in fact, was not on sale. Did you really need that? Chances are you didn't, and you should pass on it unless you know you can pay it off right then and there or by the end of the month. So you do have to manage that debt. And certainly you never want to walk away from free money. A lot of us have access where we work to vehicles such as a 401k and so forth. And I will tell you right off the bat, if you have access to a vehicle like that, and if your company, and many do, match a certain percentage, you want to at least invest enough to get the company match, whatever that is. And if you can invest more, you want to do that, because ultimately you're going to be reducing your tax scenario. You're going to be building funds down the road for your education if you want, or ultimately retirement, which is what it's designed for. And that's a beautiful thing. It truly is. So I would advise everyone out there, if you have access to a 401k, 403b, that type of vehicle, take advantage of it, please.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's vehicles, if you don't have that where you work, things such as an IRA. An IRA is an individual retirement account. You can really take advantage of those and invest them in a number of different vehicles as well. There's basically 2 different types. Your traditional IRA, where as long as you qualify, you can write off the amount that you put in, again, saving on taxes. With a traditional IRA, at the end, when you're down the road and you're going to start taking the funds out, that's when, of course, you're going to have to pay taxes. You can't take it out prior to age 59 and a half without penalties and taxes, but if you start taking it out after that, you're okay. And then, of course, by age 70 and a half, you'll have to take out at least a minimum amount that they'll let you know. The other type is what we call a Roth IRA. Now, even though the funds you place into it, you're not getting a tax break at that point, as long as you leave the funds in there, down the road now, after age 59 and a half or 5 years, whichever is longer, you can take those funds out, including the interest, and pay no taxes on it whatsoever. So depending on how you see your situation or the tax picture down the road, if you feel taxes are going to be higher down the road, you might be better off with a traditional IRA. If you think that the taxes is going to be much less and they're really high now, you're going to be better off with the Roth IRA and so forth. And there's nothing wrong with having a combination. So down the road, you can determine which vehicle you may want to withdraw funds from, keeping yourself in the driver's seat and in the best scenario. And then number 10, of course, is to build a diversified portfolio. That's where I was sharing with you. You need to understand risk. The last thing I would want is to have a person in an investment where they're pulling their hair out or losing sleep at night because it's fluctuating all over.
Yeah.
If you can handle that type of investment, you shouldn't be in it. You should be in something a little bit more conservative and so forth. Some people understand, hey, it's going to be those high highs and low lows, but ultimately I'm projected to have a very nice return or nest egg at the end, and they can handle that. So again, that asset allocation will walk you through that and put you in a much, much better situation. And then, of course, purchase appropriate insurance coverage. That goes without saying, whether it's property and casualty, whether it's life insurance, disability, health insurance, critical illness, which maybe a lot of people are unfamiliar with, but that's an excellent vehicle as well, because it will allow funds to be available, liquid dollars for you. If you're addressing a very serious illness, they'll tell you the different types and so forth. Or long-term care. More and more people are ending up in that nursing home scenario, and it is extremely expensive. So insurance can defray those costs as well. So that's another great tip to take advantage of. And lastly, of course, and I would recommend any and everyone out there to have a will. If you have any dependents whatsoever, it is a great thing. You'd never want your family, arguing and fussing about what they thought you wanted and everything else. You can stipulate that. Make it very clear this was your wishes, and it's much more likely that your heirs, survivors, would adhere to that and understand, okay, this is what he or she wanted, and so forth. A will, in my opinion, is a necessity.
Amen.
You should always do that. It's just smart business to make sure that you do have a will. Now, as I mentioned, I know I went through that pretty, very quick, so I will take a moment to address any questions that may have come in or elaborate on any specific area that there might have been a concern with, and we could go from there. I just wanted to give you a quick overview. Go right ahead.
So I did get a direct message. I did. Okay. So I got one comment that just came in, and the question is, how often should you update your will?
Fantastic, and that is an excellent question. I would suggest that a person would update their will every 2 to 3 years, or when there has been some change in the family, maybe a grandchild or even a child, or maybe a marriage or divorce, or someone passed away in the family, or a family scenario changed. Those are the red flags that you should revisit your will. If nothing has changed in your family scenario, then you should change it, or not change it, but revisit it every 2 to 3 years.
Okay. And then on top of that question, it was a question that I shared with you before we had this conversation. So I know during this time, I mean, I've seen it myself, and you probably seen it yourself as well. This entire concept of forex. So that as you know, that's considered to be trading between currencies. Now. And I'll just ask this on the public setting. Now, is Forex considered legal, and do you recommend Forex as a type of way of, I guess, of investment or anything like that? Could you explain as much you can to the best of your ability?
Right, right. Well, the currency market obviously is legal, and it's a huge market, probably the biggest market that's out there. I would not advise people to try to navigate that for an investment standpoint. Unless you have extremely large amounts of money, or you're extremely savvy with respect to the investment world. I think it's always best to maximize and take advantage of vehicles such as mutual funds. That would be my number one recommendation. Stocks, bonds, and then when you want to get more, conservative and so forth, money markets, certificates of deposits, savings accounts, and so forth. I would not go with, looking at the currency exchange and so forth. It's very, volatile from that standpoint, and very difficult to navigate.
Got you. Okay. And then, like I said, I just want to segue the conversation as comments are continuing to come in. So I did get a
Sure.
direct message before that one question did pop up. As far as 401ks are concerned, the question was, is it smart to invest in the Dow and Nasdaq at this point?
Is it smart to invest in the Dow and NASDAQ at this point? I would simply say, again, start with your asset allocation, okay? And that will tell you what is the best way to build an investment portfolio for yourself. But with respect to the question, yes, I think it's excellent idea at this point to invest in the Dow and the NASDAQ, simply because, as I mentioned, it's all about the growth, the wave that you're going to have. The whole concept behind investments, as we all know, is invest when it's low and you want to get out when it's high. Okay, well, we know it's low, so that answered the first
Yeah.
question. So yeah, I should invest now. Now, when it's high, that's going to be determined by the individual when they want to start liquidating their funds and so forth. But absolutely, I think investing in the Dow, and you wouldn't actually be investing in the Dow itself, but there are like mutual funds that are designed to mirror the investments, those 30 investments that's in the Dow and so forth, in the same capacities and so forth. So ultimately, you would be receiving the same type of return. So when you see the Dow go up, your investment would go up and so forth. So again, just like we've had major drops, throughout the history of the, Dow Jones Industrial Average. The Probably one of the biggest ones that I experienced was back in 1987, and that was October and 1987, and that was October 19th. It was like Black Monday, is what it really was.
Wow.
It was a sad scenario, but it dropped, and at that point, the people went crazy, and it only would drop by 500 points.
Wow.
Okay, 500 points now is meaningless, but back then
That was
it
a
was
lot.
huge. It
Wow.
was huge, and so my advice to people was, whatever money you have, if you have it sitting here in a money market and you can handle the risk and so forth, I feel it's best for you to get into that right now. And some people listened to me and they did it, and patted me on the back to this day. Some people didn't, and they just either got out and then it was a true loss, and some people just sat there, didn't add anything to it and so forth. But those who put extra money in or rode it out, all of them were made whole and then some. So just like 2008, it would have been a smart idea to put money in there, okay, because it had a major dip and you could have rode the wave to the highest we've ever experienced, okay. Now it's dropped significantly again. I would say, hey, in my opinion, for me, yes, I would put money in now so I could ride the wave again.
All right. So we got another question here. It's concerning IRAs. So
Mm-hmm.
the question is, if you have a traditional IRA and you are retired, is it too late to change it to a Roth IRA?
Yeah, you cannot. You have to have earned income to get any type of IRA. Okay, so if you don't have any earned income, you can't do that. The only thing that you could do is a traditional IRA. It's already set up that way. You don't have any choice. Whenever you take funds out of that, they're going to be taxed. So if you're already retired, I assume you're past the 59 and a half. So even though you don't have to worry about the 10% penalty, you would just pay regular ordinary income tax when you withdraw funds from it, but you cannot change it to a Roth IRA.
Got you. Wow, that's this is some good stuff. Family, you guys, listen, I'm telling you, you guys need to share this. You need to like this now. We are being blessed already. Look, with all this information that is coming from Mr. Craig, he's doing an awesome, fantabulous job. If you like it, please like this right now. Let him know how much information and inspiration that he's giving each and every one of us. And so I really want to really segue into, like everything that's going on, when you were talking about that Matthew 25 piece, talking about, thy good and thy faithful servant, well done, you have been faithful over a few things. So do you believe, like, with everything and I'm not trying to make this as spiritual, but I have to go to spiritual because that's what I know. With everything that's going on with COVID-19, what's going on with everything, with people that are, trying to do the best they can to try to manage resources. Do you believe that it is beneficial for people to really start, I don't know how to say this, to get in a financial advisor or to get somebody to walk them through this so that they won't feel this effect of, really not having anything, because of everything that's going on, like with the stock market crashing, and not crashing, but it's going down into the numbers like it looked like for the recession. What do you say about stuff like that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Pastor. And let me just tell you this. I think it is always a wise thing to have individuals assist you with things that you may not be as comfortable with. So, in other words, if you had to rewire your house, you could probably read enough books and study enough and everything else and try to put it together. But in the meantime, you've been living in darkness. Not a good thing. So you probably would be better off hiring an electrician that could come in and do it immediately and get you up and running if you don't know how to do it yourself. So yes, I think you want to touch base with someone with a financial education that can assist you in answering those questions, helping you build a portfolio and putting you on the road to success, which is what it is really all about. You don't have to do these things by yourself. And there are companies that you can utilize their expertise and experience at absolutely no cost. Okay, you don't have to go out and pay thousands of dollars for a financial planner and things like that. You can start at no cost with an individual that has all the licensing and so forth, but their job is to educate you. And then should you decide to buy products from them down the road and so forth, that's how their company compensates them. Okay, so you would not have to pay that necessarily direct to an individual. So it's up to you, but I'm saying, yes, you do need that expertise coming from someone other than just yourself.
Okay, and so let me ask you this. So since you put that, now I know that you retire. I know that you did retire after this. Now, do you still do work as far as financial advising, just to give the audience, reference, if that's something that you're open to? If there's, somebody after this session that may want to say, hey, can you help me out, to allocate my resources, to store up into the storehouse during this time.
Sure, sure. And one thing I will do for you and your audience, Pastor Strong, is I always end a presentation like this with my contact information. God has blessed me, and believe me, I love him for it. I'm so happy for it. And I just want to share that with other people. So no, I don't get paid for it or anything else, but I don't think it would be right for me to hoard that type of knowledge and not share. So yes, I will leave you with my contact information. Should anyone feel the need to reach out to me, I would be more than happy to assist them or connect them with an individual that can walk them through what their concerns may be. I know there's people that may have questions that they don't want to ask in a setting like this, but they would feel comfortable talking one-on-one to an individual. So yes, I would be able to do that via the phone or set them up with someone to handle that for them.
Okay, perfect. Now you don't mind if we attach your email address, right? That they can email
Absolutely
you.
fine.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect, perfect. So
perfectly fine.
So,
Hmm.
so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach his email information for those who are watching right now. That if you want to get in contact with him after this session, I know it's late, and we were trying to get this thing to work, but I think that this is perfect for the ones that are listening now. So if you want his information, this is his information. I'll put it in the comments below that you're able to contact him and let him know that first he did a wonderful job, and then if you need any advising, with your finances or any type of accounts that you want to set up, make sure you contact that email address, and he will give you more information. This stuff is good. This stuff is good. You hit it, man. You hit it. You got me thinking about some
Hmm.
stuff that I personally want to do. On
Hmm.
top of encouraging the people that are watching even now. Um,
Right, right.
any final thoughts that you want to kind of leave the people with, or
Sure,
anything, just to
sure,
get
sure.
them thinking.
Certainly. And number one, as I mentioned, probably the biggest thing that I want people to focus on is the piece about paying yourself first. I can't be more stringent on that issue. You have to put together a strategy to where you're setting aside some funds for you, okay? And then you're paying your bills, then you're investing, then you're doing those things. So I know whenever I address an audience, one of a few things are going to happen. Sometimes people think, oh, this was really, really great. I got a lot of wonderful ideas. I can sit down and really do this myself without any assistance. And I can tell you, yeah, you might think you can, but it's a lot tougher once you start getting into the weeds and trying to do it. So that's why I say you should work with professionals. You should work with someone who knows how to navigate this financial scenario and put you into a great situation. And that's fortunately what the majority of people will do. I also know there's going to be a few people who know they should do something, but they're going to sit on their hands and not do
Mm.
anything. And I will tell you, procrastination is just absolute failure for you. You have to step out and do something. So with that, I just want you to just remember Proverbs 21:20. There's a desirable treasure and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man squanders it.
Wow.
And we want you to,
Mm.
as good stewards, take this information and utilize it as it's been designed to be done. So now you know, and you have the grace to be victorious over your finances. I certainly want to thank you, Pastor Strong, for
Thank you.
giving me the opportunity to share with your audience and so forth. And as I promised, let me just put up my contact information. You can certainly feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to assist you without a doubt.
Oh, okay.
But
We got another one more question. We got another
oh,
question.
go for it.
All
Go
right.
for it.
So
Yeah.
so before you leave, another question is, it says, is it necessary for an attorney to prepare a will, or can a person do it himself, his or herself, and just have it notarized?
Yeah, it is not necessary. If that's the question, it's not necessary for an attorney to do it. That's for sure. You can do that on your own. You can have that notarized. You can actually, go take it to a bank and have someone, to your personal bank and have that done. There's great programs online if you want to utilize one of those for a will and so forth. If you have a relationship with an attorney, I mean, and you want to go that route, that's fine, but it is absolutely not a necessity.
All right, all right, all right, all right. I think that may be all the questions. I think that may be all the questions. But if you have any more questions, please email him and let him know. And his number is right there in the PowerPoint presentation. Be sure to contact him. Just tell him what he did a great job. He did a wonderful job. And listen, this is not gonna be your last
Thank you.
time. It's
Thank
not
you.
gonna be your last time, Deke. This is not gonna be your last
Okay.
time, because you're gonna be back on. But we probably going to bring all this stuff bring together. And we're going to make sure that the live stream works this time around.
Okay.
We're going to make sure. But thank you so very much, Deacon
So
Craig.
welcome.
Thank you so much
Stay
for being
safe
such
and
a
stay
blessing.
blessed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you guys so much for watching. We pray that this has blessed you. Be sure to watch this in your own personal time. God bless you. God keep you. Deacon Craig, we're gonna do this again.
Okay, I look forward to it.
All right, now you guys be good.